Your sister's son is actually your dead husband's child. And I have the will to prove it. Those words, live-streamed to 8.7 million viewers from inside St. Firminiest, Patrick's Cathedral, should have destroyed me. My sister Scarlett stood there in her designer dress, holding my 14-month-old nephew Maximilian, as 500 of Manhattan's elite watched in stunned silence. She was claiming that my husband Adam, who had just died in a helicopter crash 3 weeks earlier, had fathered her child during a secret affair. She wanted half of our $4.2 million Upper East Side brownstone. What Scarlett didn't know was that I had been preparing for this moment for 3 years. My name is Victoria Sterling Hayes. I'm 35 years old. And until recently, I was living what most would consider a perfect life. Patna at Sullivan Cromwell, one of Manhattan's most prestigious law firms, married to Adam Sterling Hayes III, a hedge fund founder whose net worth had reached $45 million before his 37th birthday. We lived in a pre-war brownstone on East 72nd Street that had been in Adam's family for 3 generations, now valued at $4.2 million. I wasn't born into this world. I grew up in a middle-class family in Connecticut, the daughter of parents who would later climb their way into influence, my father becoming a federal judge, my mother securing a position on the Met Museum board. But when I was young, we were nobody special. I earned my way into Yale Law on a full scholarship, graduated summa cum laude, and clerked for a Supreme Court justice before joining Sullivan and Cromwell. Adam and I met at a charity gala 12 years ago. He was different from the other trust fund boys who populated these events. Yes, he had the Sterling Hayes name and the old money that came with it. But he had also built his own fortune, establishing Apex Capital Management at 28. He was brilliant, driven, and surprisingly kind. When he learned I had grown up middle class, he didn't see it as a curiosity or a deficit. He saw it as proof of my intelligence and determination. We married 2 years later in a ceremony at the Rainbow Room that made the New York Times style section. For 11 years, we were Manhattan's golden couple. We had everything except the one thing we desperately wanted: children. 5 rounds of IVF at New York Presbyterian, the best fertility specialists money could buy. Experimental treatments in Switzerland. Nothing worked. The irony wasn't lost on me that my younger sister Scarlett, who had never wanted children, accidentally got pregnant with her crypto scammer boyfriend after knowing him for 3 months. 3 weeks ago, Adam took his helicopter from our Hamptons estate back to the city for an emergency board meeting. Something went wrong over the East River. The Coast Guard found the wreckage within hours, but Adam was already gone. The investigators said it was mechanical failure, a 1 in a million malfunction. At 37, I became a widow with a fortune I never wanted and a hole in my life that $45 million couldn't fill. The funeral was held at St. Patrick's Cathedral, the same place where we'd planned to baptize the children we never had. 800 people attended. Senators, CEOs, judges, the full spectrum of New York power. My sister Scarlett Berry showed up, arriving late and leaving early, claiming Maximilian was sick. I was too consumed with grief to think much of it. But Scarlett had been planning something for weeks. Apparently, creating documents, arranging her moment, waiting for the perfect time to strike. She chose Maximilian's baptism, an event I could hardly refuse to attend, being both his aunt and godmother, an event that would guarantee maximum witnesses to her revelation. As I stood in that cathedral, watching my sister destroy my dead husband's reputation in front of everyone who mattered in our world, I felt an unexpected emotion. Not rage. Not despair. But something closer to dark satisfaction. Because Scarlett, despite her 843,000 Instagram followers and her carefully orchestrated performance, had just walked into a trap 3 years in the making. You see, Scarlett had always been the family's problem child disguised as its golden girl. 4 years younger than me. She was blessed with the kind of beauty that opened doors without effort. While I was grinding through law school, she was building her lifestyle brand. Scarlett Soiree. I funded entirely by our parents' credit cards. She had a gift for making people believe her version of reality. Whether it was convincing our parents that her failed boutique was just a minor setback or that her mounting debts were investments in her future, the pattern had been consistent since childhood. If I achieved something through hard work, Scarlett would find a way to claim she deserved equal recognition just for existing. When I made partner at 32, the youngest in Sullivan and Cromwell's history, Scarlett threw a tantrum about how unfair it was that I got all the attention. She posted a series of Instagram stories about how success isn't just about money and titles while secretly begging our father to pay off the $100,000 she owed to various creditors. But the real problem with Scarlett began 3 years ago, when she first set her sights on Adam. It started innocently enough, or at least it appeared that way. We had invited her to dinner at our brownstone to celebrate her latest venture, a marketing consultancy that lasted exactly 4 months before collapsing. Adam had prepared his famous coq au vin. We'd opened a bottle of Chateau Margaux from our cellar. And for a brief moment, it felt like we were a normal family. I stepped away to take a call from a client in Tokyo, a 40-minute discussion about their Manhattan penthouse renovation. When I returned, the atmosphere had shifted. Adam was standing by the window, his jaw clenched in that way I recognized as controlled anger. Scarlett was lounging on our restoration hardware sofa, her hand still extended toward where Adam had been sitting. Her expression caught between amusement and annoyance. "Everything okay?" I asked, though I knew it wasn't. Adam looked at me with an expression I'd never seen before, a mixture of discomfort and disgust. "I think Scarlett's had too much wine," he said carefully. "Perhaps we should call it a night." Scarlett laughed, that tinkling sound she'd perfected for her Instagram videos. "Oh, Adam, don't be so dramatic. I was just saying how lucky my sister is to have landed such a successful, attractive husband. Some women have all the luck, don't they?" Later that night, after Scarlett had left in an Uber Black that we paid for, Adam told me everything. While I was on my call, she had moved closer to him, running her hand along his arm while commenting on how hard he must work out. She'd mentioned how lonely she was since breaking up with her latest boyfriend, how she understood why I was always so busy with work, and how Adam must feel neglected when he tried to move away. She'd followed, suggesting that perhaps he needed someone who could properly appreciate everything he had to offer. The way she said it, Adam told me, pacing our bedroom, it wasn't subtle. She was propositioning me. "Victoria, your own sister." I wish I could say I was shocked, but part of me had been waiting for something like this. Scarlett had always wanted what I had, but this was a new low. We decided not to confront her immediately, hoping it was an isolated incident fueled by too much wine and her recent breakup. Adam blocked her number on his phone and we agreed to limit contact to family gatherings only. But Scarlett didn't stop. Over the next 6 months, she escalated. She would accidentally run into Adam near his office at 1 Manhattan West. always dressed in carefully chosen outfits that she'd post on Instagram later with captions like "business meeting in the financial district." So inspiring to be around successful people, she sent him LinkedIn messages about potential business collaborations that had nothing to do with business. Once, she showed up at his office, claiming she needed legal advice about her taxes. Wearing a dress so inappropriate that Adam's assistant, Patricia, later told me she almost called security. The turning point came when Scarlett obtained Adam's private email, we never figured out how, and sent him photos from a boudoir shoot with the subject line, "Thought you might appreciate these." That's when we knew we needed to take formal action. Adam and I sat in the office of James Morrison, senior partner at Morrison and Associates, and Adam's personal attorney for 15 years. James was old-school Manhattan law, Yale undergrad, Harvard law, and 40 years of handling delicate matters for New York's elite. We laid out everything: the propositions, the stalking, the inappropriate messages. James listened with the practiced neutrality of someone who'd heard worse, taking notes in his leather-bound notebook. "Document everything," he said. "Every interaction, every message, every accidental encounter. You're building a potential harassment case. But more importantly, you're protecting yourselves from any false accusations she might make in retaliation." That's when Adam made a decision that would later save everything I owned. He instructed James to update his will with extraordinary specificity, including a clause stating that any claims of children born outside our marriage would require court-approved DNA testing from 3 independent laboratories. He also included a sealed letter to be opened only if someone contested the will, detailing Scarlett's harassment with dates, times, and evidence. But the most important preparation happened 2 weeks later. Adam had been experiencing severe pain that he'd been ignoring for months, typical of his workaholic nature. The diagnosis was a varicocele that required immediate surgery. During the procedure, the urologist discovered complications that led to a medical recommendation: Adam should have a vasectomy to prevent future problems. It was a devastating blow given our fertility struggles. But the doctor assured us it was necessary for Adam's health. The vasectomy was performed on March 15th. 3 years ago. We told no one except James Morrison, who suggested we keep certified medical records in multiple locations. "You never know," James had said, "what might become relevant in the future." Meanwhile, Scarlett's life was spiraling in a different direction. She had met Tyler Chen at a crypto conference in Miami. He was presenting something about revolutionary blockchain solutions for luxury brands. Within 3 months, she was pregnant. Tyler promised her the world: a penthouse in Tribeca, a new boutique funded by his crypto fortune, a lifestyle that would make her Instagram followers weep with envy. Instead, he disappeared when Maximilian was 3 months old, leaving behind $385,000 in debts and a trail of fraud investigations. The medical bills for Maximilian started immediately. He was born with a rare genetic condition affecting his heart, something called hypoplastic left heart syndrome. The specialists at Mount Sinai gave Scarlett 2 options: a series of surgeries in New York that might work, or an experimental treatment in Switzerland that would cost $2.8 million, but had a 90% success rate. Of course, she had neither option's money. This is when Scarlett began her final transformation from desperate sister to calculated criminal. I discovered later, through Kroll Associates' investigation, that she had been planning her scheme for months. She found a guy named Derek who ran a deepfake service for Instagram influencers, creating fake photos with celebrities. For $5,000, he could create a convincing digital signature using samples from Google Images. She found Adam's signature on charity auction documents posted online by the Met Museum. The forged will was amateur work. But Scarlett was counting on emotional manipulation rather than legal scrutiny. The language was filled with the kind of sentimental garbage that Adam, who spoke in precise legal terms even in birthday cards, would never write. To my beloved son Maximilian, whom I regret not being able to acknowledge in life. It made me sick reading it later. But the masterstroke of her plan was the timing. She would reveal everything at Maximilian's baptism, an event she knew I couldn't skip. She invited 500 people, every important family in Manhattan. Partners from Sullivan and Cromwell. Judges from my father's circuit. Board members from my mother's museum committees. She hired a professional videographer and, more importantly, set up her phone to live stream on TikTok. The morning of the baptism, I woke up in our brownstone feeling the familiar ache of Adam's absence. The California king bed felt vast and cold. His coffee mug still sat on the bedside table where he'd left it the morning of the crash. I dressed carefully in a black Chanel suit, the same one I'd worn to his funeral, as I fastened the pearl necklace Adam had given me for our 10th anniversary. I noticed my hands weren't shaking anymore. Grief had evolved into something else, a cold, clear purpose. The car arrived at 10:30. As we drove through Manhattan toward St. Patrick's Cathedral, I reviewed the messages on my phone. My attorney James Morrison had texted documents ready. Kroll team standing by. Federal prosecutor on notice. I had assembled what Adam would have called a war council, lawyers, investigators, forensic accountants, even a crisis management firm that handled PR disasters for Fortune 500 companies. St. Patrick's Cathedral looked magnificent that morning, its spires reaching toward a cloudless September sky. The steps were crowded with Manhattan's elite in their Sunday best. I recognized faces from the society pages. Charity galas. Adam's funeral. They looked at me with that mixture of pity and curiosity reserved for wealthy widows. Inside the cathedral, the baptismal font had been decorated with white orchids and baby's breath, Scarlett's Instagram aesthetic perfectly executed. She stood near the altar, holding Maximilian, who wore a Burberry christening gown that probably cost more than most people's rent. She was radiant in a cream Oscar de la Renta dress, her hair professionally styled, makeup flawless. She looked every inch the devoted mother, not the desperate con artist I knew her to be. My parents were already seated in the front row. My father, Judge Harrison Walsh. I looked uncomfortable in his navy suit, checking his phone repeatedly. My mother, Eleanor Walsh, board member of the Met and 3 other cultural institutions, was putting on her best society smile. But I could see the strain around her eyes. They knew something was wrong. Scarlett had been hinting at a big announcement all week. I took my seat in the second row, deliberately placing myself where I could see everyone's reactions. The cathedral filled quickly, partners from Sullivan and Cromwell, judges from the Second Circuit, hedge fund managers who'd worked with Adam, socialites who lived for drama. Scarlett had guaranteed herself an audience of the most powerful people in New York. Father Mackenzie began the ceremony at precisely 11 o'clock. Everything proceeded normally through the first prayers. Then, just as he was about to perform the actual baptism, Scarlett raised her hand. Father, I need to say something first. Something everyone here needs to know. She pulled out her phone with one hand while holding Maximilian with the other. I'm going live on TikTok because the truth needs to be witnessed. The congregation stirred uneasily. Father Mackenzie looked bewildered. My mother started to stand, but my father pulled her back down. I remained perfectly still, my phone recording everything from my lap. My son Maximilian, Scarlett announced, her voice carrying through the cathedral's perfect acoustics. Is not Tyler Chen's child. His father was Adam Sterling Hayes III. My sister Victoria's recently deceased husband. The gasp from 500 throats echoed off the vaulted ceiling. Every head turned to look at me. I kept my expression neutral. Almost bored. Which clearly wasn't the reaction Scarlett expected. She continued. Gaining confidence from the shock value Adam and I had an affair 2 years ago. He came to me when Victoria was neglecting him for her career. We met at the St. Regis. Always in Suite 3412. He told me he was planning to leave her. But then I got pregnant and he panicked. He begged me to keep quiet. Promised he would provide for his son. I watched my colleagues from Sullivan and Cromwell exchange glances. My father's face had turned purple. My mother was gripping her arms clutched so tightly her knuckles were white. The TikTok viewer count on Scarlett's phone screen was climbing rapidly. 50,000. 100,000. 200,000. But Adam died before he could make things right. Scarlett continued, pulling out a folded document. So he left this will, giving Maximilian his rightful inheritance, half of the Sterling Hayes brownstone on East 72nd Street. Valued at $4.2 million. She held the document high, making sure both the crowd and her phone camera could see it. The TikTok viewer count hit 500,000. Comments were flooding in faster than anyone could read them. The cathedral had become a stage for the most public humiliation possible. Exactly as Scarlett had planned. That's when I stood up. May I see the will? Scarlett. My voice was calm. Professional. My courtroom voice. Every eye in the cathedral tracked my movement as I walked toward her. My heels clicked against the marble floor, the sound echoing in the sudden silence. Scarlett's confidence wavered slightly. But she handed me the document. I examined it slowly, deliberately, letting the silence stretch. The TikTok viewer count passed 1 million. Then I did something unexpected. I smiled. Thank you for this, I said, loud enough for everyone to hear. This is very helpful evidence for the FBI's fraud investigation. The word FBI rippled through the congregation like electricity. Scarlett's face went pale beneath her perfect makeup. What are you talking about? She stammered. This will is forged, I announced, turning to address the congregation and, by extension, her live stream audience. Rather poorly, I might add. The language isn't even close to correct legal terminology. Adam never used double spaces after periods. Yet this document has them throughout. The signature is a deepfake creation. We traced the source image to the Met Museum's charity auction page from 2019. Scarlett tried to interrupt, but I continued. More importantly, Adam had a vasectomy performed on March 15th, 3 years ago, following complications from varicocele surgery. The procedure was performed at Mount Sinai by Dr. Richard Steinberg, with follow-up confirmation testing at Mayo Clinic 6 months later. It was medically impossible for Adam to father any child after that date. The viewer count on her phone hit 3 million. The comments had shifted from shock to mockery. My father, Judge Harrison Walsh, stood up, his federal prosecutor instincts kicking in. Scarlett, end that live stream immediately. You're confessing to multiple federal crimes. But it was too late. The live stream had already captured everything. Scarlett's hands shook as she tried to stop the broadcast, accidentally dropping her phone. It clattered on the marble. Still recording. The viewer count passing 4 million. Furthermore, I continued, pulling out my own phone. I have here 3 years of documentation showing Scarlett's repeated sexual harassment of my husband, including inappropriate photos she sent to his private email, records of her showing up at his office, and 27 text messages that became increasingly explicit despite Adam's request to stop. My mother gasped. Several people in the congregation were now recording on their own phones. Father Mackenzie looked like he wanted to sink through the floor. Baby Maximilian, oblivious to his mother's destruction, started crying. Kroll Associates has also uncovered some interesting information about your financial situation. Scarlett, I said, my voice still deadly calm. $385,000 in debt. An eviction notice filed last week. A boyfriend who fled to Singapore to avoid fraud charges. And most interestingly, a GoFundMe where you've been collecting donations for Maximilian's medical treatment while spending that money on designer clothes and rent for your WeWork space. The cathedral erupted. People were talking. Phones were ringing. And Scarlett's livestream viewer count hit 6 million. The comments were brutal. Scammer exposed. Prison time. Poor baby, flooded the screen. Someone had already created a meme of Scarlett's shocked face. You're lying, Scarlett screamed. Her carefully constructed composure finally cracking. Adam loved me. He said Victoria was cold. That she only cared about her career. Adam documented every one of your advances in a journal. I replied, holding up a leather-bound notebook. March 23rd. You showed up at his office in a dress, so inappropriate, his assistant asked if she should call security. April 15th. You sent him photos from a boudoir shoot. May 2nd. You tried to kiss him at my birthday dinner when I stepped away to answer a call. Should I continue? My father stepped forward. His judge's authority filling his voice. Scarlett, you need to stop talking. You've just confessed to attempted fraud, forgery, and harassment in front of 500 witnesses and millions online. But Scarlett was beyond reasoning. The mask had completely fallen away, revealing the desperate, entitled person beneath. You got everything, she screamed at me. The perfect husband. The perfect career. The perfect house. All I wanted was my share. I deserve something. You deserve prison time, said a voice from the back. It was Margaret Chen, the federal prosecutor for the Southern District of New York, who happened to be both a colleague and a friend. Forging a will. Fraud over $100,000. Identity theft if you used his signature for anything else. You're looking at 5 to 10 years. Scarlett's phone was still live streaming from the floor. The viewer count passed 8.7 million. TikTok was about to witness a complete meltdown in real time. She grabbed Maximilian, who was now crying loudly, and tried to push past me toward the door. I wouldn't leave, I said quietly. There are FBI agents outside. We knew you were going to do this. Scarlett, we've known for weeks. Your friend Derek, the one who made the deepfake signature, he flipped immediately when the FBI approached him. He's been recording your conversations for the past month. This was the final blow. Scarlett collapsed onto the cathedral steps, still holding Maximilian, sobbing, not the pretty tears she used to manipulate our parents, but rough, ugly crying. The live stream captured everything. Within minutes, Scarlett's cathedral confession was trending worldwide. My mother finally moved, walking slowly toward Scarlett. How could you, she whispered. To your own sister, to Adam's memory. And using your baby as a prop, you always loved Victoria more. Scarlett wailed. She was the smart one, the successful one. I was just the pretty one who couldn't do anything right. You're right, my father said, his voice heavy with disgust. We did enable you. We made excuses for you. We failed you by never letting you face consequences. But this is beyond anything we could have imagined. The FBI agents entered the cathedral then, 2 of them in dark suits. Badge visible. They waited while Scarlett handed Maximilian to our mother. Then read her rights. The arrest was captured by dozens of phones and, of course, her own still-running live stream, which finally cut out at 12 million views. The aftermath was swift and brutal. Within hours, Scarlett became the most hated woman on the internet. The hashtag Cathedral Scammer reached #1 globally. Someone leaked her mugshot from the FBI booking, and it became an instant meme. Her 843,000 Instagram followers disappeared within 72 hours, replaced by hundreds of thousands following newly created parody accounts. The legal consequences came in waves. First, the federal charges: wire fraud, identity theft, forgery of legal documents. Derek, her deepfake accomplice, had recorded everything, including Scarlett bragging about how she would destroy Victoria and take what she owes me. The surveillance footage from the WeWork space showed her practicing her cathedral speech, even coaching herself on when to cry for maximum effect. Then came the financial investigation. The FBI discovered she'd been running multiple scams. The GoFundMe for Maximilian's treatment had raised $120,000. But only $20,000 had gone to medical expenses. The rest went to maintaining her lifestyle, Dia's rent for a Tribeca apartment she couldn't afford, designer clothes for her Instagram posts, and payments to a PR firm to buy fake followers. The trial date was set for 6 months later. But Scarlett never made it to court. Her lawyer, a public defender since no prestigious firm would touch her case, negotiated a plea deal: 2 years probation, 500 hours of community service, and full restitution of the stolen GoFundMe money. The judge, one of my father's colleagues who recused himself from the case to avoid conflict of interest, was replaced by Judge Patricia Yamamoto, who was known for harsh sentences on white-collar crime. Miss Walsh, Judge Yamamoto said at sentencing, you used your own infant son as a prop in an elaborate fraud scheme. You attempted to destroy your sister's reputation while she was grieving her husband's death. You stole money meant for sick children. The only reason you're not going to federal prison is that your son needs at least one parent who isn't incarcerated. The terms were harsh, beyond the probation and community service. Scarlett was ordered to maintain employment at minimum wage or above, submit to monthly drug testing, and have zero contact with me except through court-appointed mediators regarding Maximilian. She was banned from all social media platforms for the duration of her probation. Any violation would result in immediate incarceration. The most humiliating part came when she had to find work. No marketing firm would hire her. She was toxic. Her name returned millions of Google results about the cathedral scandal. Finally, she got a job at a Target in Queens, all far from the Manhattan circles she once moved in. Someone recognized her on her first day and posted a TikTok cathedral scammer scanning groceries. It got 47 million views. Meanwhile, I had decisions to make about Maximilian. Despite everything, he was innocent, and he needed that treatment in Switzerland. I established a $5 million medical trust, managed by an independent trustee, specifically for his care. The payments would go directly to the hospital in Zurich, with no money ever touching Scarlett's hands. My parents' reaction was perhaps the most painful to watch. My mother resigned from 2 of her board positions, claiming health issues. But everyone knew the truth. The Met Museum quietly suggested she take a sabbatical from their board. My father, Judge Harrison Walsh, faced an ethics review after his CNN appearance defending Scarlett went viral alongside her confession. Though cleared of any wrongdoing, his reputation for sound judgment was forever tarnished. We failed both of you, my mother told me 6 months later, over tea at Bergdorf's. We created this monster by never holding Scarlett accountable. And we abandoned you when you needed support. I looked at her tired face, aged 10 years in 6 months, and felt something between pity and vindication. You chose to enable her for 31 years. That was your choice. Now we all live with the consequences. The Switzerland treatment for Maximilian was successful. After 4 months and $2.8 million, his heart condition was corrected. I flew there personally to oversee the treatment, working remotely from Zurich while ensuring everything went perfectly. Scarlett wasn't allowed to leave the country due to her probation, so she had to watch her son's recovery through video calls supervised by a social worker. During this time, something unexpected happened. At a medical conference in Davos, I met Marcus Chen, no relation to Tyler. He was a tech billionaire who had developed a revolutionary medical diagnostic AI. We bonded over our shared experience of betrayal. His business partner had attempted to steal his company while he was caring for his dying mother. Marcus was everything Adam had been: brilliant, kind, driven, but also something more. He understood reinvention after loss. 6 months after we met, he proposed with a simple question: want to build something new together? We married in a private ceremony at his estate in Palo Alto, with only 20 guests and no social media coverage. The real justice came in unexpected ways. A Netflix documentary crew had been filming a series about wealth and fraud in Manhattan. They caught wind of the cathedral scandal and pivoted their entire show around it. Blood money. The Sterling Hayes scandal premiered to 15 million viewers. They interviewed Derek, the forensic accountants, even some of the cathedral witnesses. Scarlett couldn't participate due to her legal agreements, so her side remained untold while the evidence against her was laid out in devastating detail. The most viral moment came from security footage of Scarlett at Target, accidentally leaked by an employee. She was dealing with a difficult customer who recognized her and started recording. "Aren't you that woman who tried to steal from her dead brother-in-law?" Scarlett had to stand there, in her red Target vest, while being berated for 3 minutes before a manager intervened. The video got 60 million views across TikTok and Twitter. I established the Sterling Hayes Foundation with $25 million of Adam's estate, dedicated to helping victims of family fraud and financial abuse. We've helped over 3,000 people in our first year, providing legal resources and financial counseling to those betrayed by relatives they trusted. Every case reminds me that my story, while extreme, isn't unique. 1 year after the cathedral scandal, I received a letter forwarded through my attorney. It was from Scarlett, written in her careful handwriting on Target stationery during her break. She wasn't asking for money or forgiveness. She was informing me that she'd been accepted into a community college nursing program, that she'd been sober for 8 months, and that therapy was helping her understand the roots of her destructive behavior. "I don't expect you to respond," she wrote. "I don't deserve your forgiveness. But I wanted you to know that losing everything was the only way I could finally see who I'd become. Maximilian deserves better than the mother I was. Maybe someday I can be that person." I didn't respond, but I did instruct the trustee to ensure Maximilian's educational fund was increased to cover any university he might want to attend. The child shouldn't suffer for his mother's crimes. The final twist came 18 months after Adam's death. While organizing documents for the foundation, I found a sealed letter Adam had written 2 weeks before his death. stored in our safety deposit box. Inside was a message that took my breath away, my dearest Victoria. If you're reading this, something has happened to me. I've had a strange feeling lately. Call it paranoia. But I wanted to ensure you're protected. Check the Swiss account, routing number included below. I've set aside $10 million that no one knows about. Not even our attorneys. It's yours alone. Also, I had our brownstone transferred into an irrevocable trust in your name last month. No matter what anyone claims, no one can touch it. You asked me once why I documented everything about Scarlett so obsessively. The truth is, I saw something in her eyes that scared me, a willingness to destroy anything for personal gain. Protect yourself. My love. You're stronger than you know. Forever yours. Adam. Even from beyond the grave, Adam had protected me. The Swiss account was real. Untouchable by any legal claim. The Brownstone Trust had been executed perfectly. He had anticipated everything. Even his own death. With the precision that made him such a successful hedge fund manager. Today, 3 years after that cathedral disaster, I look back with a mixture of sadness and gratitude. Sadness for the sister I never really had. The parents who chose favoritism over fairness. And most of all, for Adam, who deserved to see justice served. But gratitude, too, for Adam's foresight. For the strength I found in myself. And for the second chance at happiness with Marcus. Scarlett still works at Target. Recent social media posts by customers suggest she's been promoted to shift supervisor. She lives in a studio apartment in Queens with Maximilian, who at 4 years old is thriving after his treatment. They have no contact with our parents, who moved to Florida in shame. Once a month, I receive photos of Maximilian from the court-appointed supervisor. He has Adam's eyes. No. Wait. That's impossible. He has Tyler's eyes. But Scarlett's smile. Maybe someday, when he's older, I'll tell him how his medical treatment was funded. Or maybe I'll let him believe his mother finally did something right. The lesson in all of this: document everything. Trust carefully. And remember that sometimes the greatest revenge isn't destroying someone, it's letting them destroy themselves while you simply hold up a mirror. Scarlett wanted half of a $4.2 million brownstone. Instead, she got internet infamy, a criminal record, and a minimum wage job. I got my life back, a new love, and the satisfaction of knowing Adam's legacy lives on through the thousands of families our foundation helps. If you're dealing with toxic family members who mask their cruelty with blood relations, remember this: DNA doesn't give anyone the right to destroy you. Protect yourself. Gather evidence. And never be afraid to let consequences fall where they deserve to fall. Even if that means watching your sister's confession go viral to 47 million viewers while she scans groceries at Target.